Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Happy Hanukkah! Festive Kwanzaa! Wonderful winter solstice! Ramadan? Let's have some fun! Ooh. Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101, 12 Nights of Christmas. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101, and I love it. Promoter 101, Promoter 101, Promoter 101, Promoter 101, and I love it. Yeah, I love it. Promoter 101.
Hi, I'm Sarah Pelch. I'm on Promoter 101.
Happy holidays to all. It's Promoter 101's 12 Days of Christmas special, spectacular surprise interviews. Each day a new interview, all the way through the 31st of the year. I'm Dan Steinberg, and now to unveil today's featured guest, Mr. Luke Pierce.
Dan, it's day 3 of the 12 Days of Christmas on Promoter 101, and I can't think of a more special guest than our buddy, the lovable Jake Szufnarowski from Rocks Off. He's here to talk about promoting shows on a cruise ship in New York on a nightly basis. Rocks Off is an amazing story. Jake is an incredible guy, and we're excited to share day 3 of the 12 Days of Christmas with you.
Hey, this is Craig Newman,
JJ Kassiri,
Louis Messina,
Sarah Pelch,
Dan Berkowitz,
Jake Gold,
Bob Rupp,
Lucy Lawler-Fries,
Dave Geller, Andy Summers,
Simon Shaw,
Scott Aller,
Pete Shapiro,
Mike Ducharme,
Rick Schultz,
Lucas Keller, and you're listening to Promoter 101.
Promoter 101.
Put down your inhibitions and pick up a cool glass of Promoter 101.
We continue our world tour. Catch us when we come to a town near you.
Next on deck for Promoter 101 will be live at the FlyCon conference in the Big Easy, New Orleans, January 16th at 2 p.m. We'll be recording Promoter 101 live with a special guest from Locken and the Brooklyn Bowl, Mr. Peter Shapiro. Looking forward to it, Dan.
Yeah, and you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at The Jew. The show's at Promoters 101, and it's plural, Promoters with an S, 101. And you can always catch Luke at W. Luke Pierce.
Of course, it's Dan and I talking every week. You hear enough of us, but it doesn't have to be that way. We're ready to listen. Send us an email with your ideas to steiny@promoter101.net. We can't wait to hear what's on your mind, and we give you our sworn promise to respond to every inquiry in a timely manner because you matter to us.
Hello there, Andy Summers from APA and Promoter 101. Happy to be here.
For the third interview, our third gift to you during these 12 days of Christmas, we're going to welcome to Promoter 101 quite the jovial individual. He's one of the more positive, upbeat people with an incredible, very well-known tattoo. From Rocks Off, our friend, Jake Szufnarowski.
Wonderful to be here. It is a beautiful day, 83 degrees, right on the edge of Central Park here at your fancy suite at the Plaza Hotel. Life is good for the Promoter 101 boys.
You know, it is a weird thing. We've known each other for a very long time, but for you and me to be talking punk rock from the Plaza Hotel is just kind of epically wrong.
Yeah, upward and onward, though, you know what I mean? As long as we trash this suite at the end of the interview, I think that's keeping it punk rock.
First and foremost, the rainbow, the dolphin, the unicorn, because I can't see it anywhere and not think of you. And I was in Mike Luba's office, and there it was. The sticker was right on the wall.
Yeah, that's a magical image. A lot of people associate that with my company, probably because I used it on a lot of marketing materials.
It's a stuffed animal now.
Yeah, it's a stuffed animal, thanks to Budsies, which I found on Mark Cuban's wonderful show Shark Tank. They didn't fund Budsies, but they got a customer out of me. So what Dan's talking about is an image of a unicorn hugging a dolphin. Some people say it's humping, but I think it's hugging in front of a rainbow. And the title of the image is The Embrace. And it's an image I had a graphic designer of mine create years ago. I was like, Glenn, I want a unicorn. I got to admit, I said, I want a unicorn humping a dolphin under a rainbow. And he sent it to me a few weeks later. I printed it out and I put it on my refrigerator, and it stayed there for about a year until I was like, what am I going to do with this? And then I was like, bingo, I'm going to get it tattooed on my left bicep. And I did. And people loved the tattoo, and they were like, you should make a t-shirt out of this. So I made t-shirts, our best-selling t-shirt to this day. We still sell plenty of them. We still give some away too, like the ones to Luba. And then I started putting it on flyers and then on our website. And one year I had our website completely redesigned with all pink background and dolphin unicorn everywhere. And we got so many messages asking if we were a gay cruise company. And I was like, okay, I got to scale this back just a little bit.
It's probably not a bad marketing play, though, because in this market, it's it's a big market for the gay and lesbian lifestyle.
It is. I think maybe 2018 is the season we're going to go for that. Bring Pansy Division back for a boat show.
Pansy Division. I remember seeing them for the first time opening for Green Day. And I didn't realize until they came off stage when I went over the merch table that they were the first homosexual out band ever. And I love that Green Day took them on the road at their most breaking moment and said, fuck, dude, appreciate this. These guys are great.
Right. And they were great. And then there was also, right from the same era, also on lookout were the Queers, who weren't gay at all, but got lumped into that whole thing. And I don't think I've ever lived it down.
Joe King, definitely not gay.
Most definitely not gay. But yeah, so the dolphin unicorn image to this day remains tied to Rocksoft and tied to me. Like not a week goes by where someone doesn't post a unicorn image on my Facebook or send me a unicorn sticker.
So let's talk about Rocksoft for a second, and not just the image that I love so much. There's no question that you're one of the bigger independent promoters in this market, but at the same time, you
now one of the only, because everybody keeps selling out to bigger promoters.
We'll leave that to Glancy to explain. You not only promote shows in regular clubs, and everybody lets you into their venues, which is definitely special because most people get locked out, and you go into everybody's rooms.
Everybody's rooms, yeah. I'm like Switzerland in that way.
And at the same time, you have a special niche, boat shows. You can see a band on a boat, and you did that first, and that's become a big thing, and you guys still do a ton of that, but that's your staple in this market.
Yeah, that's our staple. That's what we're known for, the Rocksoft Concert Cruise Series, the original Rock and Dock Music Festival, as I used to like to call it. But yeah, we started that in 2001, before Jam Cruise started, and no one was really doing that. I was managing a band at the time called Rana, who had sold out all of the decent downtown clubs, and we were looking for a different situation to put the band in. And one day I was walking along the East River, and I saw a boat go by, and they had this like merengue band playing, and it was really loud, and I was like, ding, the light bulb went off. I was like, live music on a boat, how cool would that be? And it's interesting because what most people don't realize, New York City is a collection of islands. The only borough of New York that's attached to the mainland America is the Bronx. New York City is what they call an archipelago. It's a collection of islands. Between 37 and 42 islands make up New York City, depending on the tide, because there's a few islands that when it's low tide, the land is present and visible. When it's high tide, you can't see it. So that's why the amount of islands differs.
Our history lesson from Jake.
I mean, a lot of people in New York, they forget that they live on an island, and it's a nautical city. One of the most striking natural harbors in the world, and it's one of the deepest, and it's one of the busiest ports. It's cool to bring people back out on boats and like have them be like, holy shit, I've never seen the city from this angle before. You know, and be able to appreciate the skyline from away from it rather than from inside of it.
Now, there's some challenges you deal with on the boat most shows don't have. People can't really come late. You guys have left the dock. Can't leave early unless you're willing to swim it.
On the FAQ section of our website, one of the questions is, if I'm not having a good time and I want to leave, is there a way to get off the boat? And I say, yes, each of our boat has a dinghy, and it'll take you down the Gowanus Canal and let you off in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Do or die, Bed-Stuy. And every now and then people like send an email asking if that's real, or on the boat will ask, like, I heard there's a way to get off. Can I take the dinghy off of here? And then I'm just like, dude, come on.
Yeah, there's the exit. Jump, fucker.
There's challenges of you can't come late, you can't get off early.
Is that a refund request that comes a lot, that people like got stuck in traffic, or do you offer them a makeup show? Or
it depends how the email comes through and what kind of mood I'm in, to be honest. Typically I'll offer a refund, but if they're acting super entitled and bitchy and like, how come the boat didn't wait for me? I was there at 8:03 and it was supposed to leave at 8. And I'm like, too fucking bad, sucker.
But if somebody sends you like, can I exchange this ticket for something else?
Yeah,
I got
I'm
stuck
like,
in traffic.
I'll do that even before a show happens. You know what I mean? We're here to please customers. If someone's like, hey, something came up, I was going to come with my boyfriend, he's sick, we love your cruises though, we had tickets for the Queers, can we come on the Pie Tasters instead 2 weeks later? I'll be like, yeah, sure, as long as there's ticket availability.
You are one of the most standout personalities in this industry by far. I mean, you're a lovable character. You're one of my favorite people in the world, but your personality plus, you outshine a lot of your acts. That's part of your brand.
Yeah, I guess so.
When did you personality-esque come out?
Right out the womb, motherfucker.
Really? Were you a loud kid?
Yes, I was loud and boisterous. I used to always look out the window of the house where I grew up, and I used to tell my mother, I was like, look across the street, the Murphys and the Sullivans and the Murphys. I was like, I want to get out of here. And I used to tell them, I was like, no, there's nothing happening around here. My mother says that when I was 4 years old, I threatened to get on the garbage truck and ride it as far as it went, because I told her I wanted to be a garbage man. But I used to tell her I'm going to move to New York City. And where I grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts, my parents' families, their grandparents had come over from Poland and from Greece, and no one had ever moved away from Lowell. And I was like, I'm going to move to New York City. And everyone was like, there's no way. My dad was the first in his family to go to college. My two sisters went to college, both in Boston. And I was like, I'm going to New York City. And then I did.
And how long have you been here now?
25 years.
You took a brief hiatus. You were in London for a couple of years, right?
I got shipped off to London for 2.5 years by Peter Shapiro to run the Brooklyn Bowl.
Did you piss on the bowl or something? Like Ozzy was, pissing on the Alamo? You had to leave New York for 2 years?
Yeah, he exiled me. No, I actually, I worked for Peter Shapiro booking the Wetlands in the 90s. And that was pretty much the last job I had. I booked the Knitting Factory for 4 months after Wetlands closed, but then I left that. It was very different culture than the Wetlands, as you can imagine. And then I started Rocks Off. So Peter was kind of the last boss I had. Then I started Rocks Off. Then I started an all-metal tribute to the Bee Gees, a band called Tragedy, which we started as a goof. And
you guys played an industry conference during Polestar, right? One of the parties, Skull and Bones?
We did. It was us and the Donnas at the Skull and Bones Brigade, which was great because
shout out to Rick Farrell.
I think we got paid $500. Then we had to fly ourselves out to LA. And I told the band, I was we're going to play for every promoter and agent in the industry. This is going to get so many gigs. To this day, everybody, people always remember that we played that show, but not one offer came in from the show. So I had a lot of answering to do to the band and why I spent thousands of dollars of our money. But it was a goof band to start, and it ended up becoming really successful. We did 7 tours of the UK. And then I went to the UK on vacation, and I went to see a bunch of shows. There was Dolly Parton in Nottingham, Black Sabbath in Hyde Park, Jack White at the Hammersmith, and Government Mule was playing at the Bowl. So I was oh, fuck it. I'll go over to the Bowl and check it out. And I went and checked it out, and I emailed Shapiro, and I was you have an amazing venue here. You made it look and feel just like the one in New York. The staff is awesome. The food's awesome. The calendar seems a little light. What's going on? Everything okay? And he's well, we've been trying to book it from New York. We really need someone on the ground in London. You know a lot of people in London from doing all the Tragedy business over there. Would you be willing to move to London? I'd hire you in a minute. And I wasn't looking for a job or anything, but I was you know what? Fuck it. Why not? I've been doing kind of the same thing in New York, boats every year for years on end. This was 2014, so it was our 14th season. And I was I could use a different challenge.
But you kept the company running even though you went to London, right?
Yeah, I have an extremely capable staff headed by Karina Reichman. I kind of handed her the keys, and I was look, I'm going to move to London. I don't know how long I'm going to be there. In my head, I was going to be there for 6 months. And I was you know what? I'll go over there. I'll get some stuff going on. And then I'll be here you go, Shappy. Congrats. I did good work. But it was a lot more challenging than I thought it was going to be. But it was rewarding, too. It's easy to get complacent when you do the same thing over and over, in New York, booking tons of shows. Everybody knows who I am. This is it's not easy, but it's routine, right? You call the same people. You do the same business. And then I was wow, if I could replicate some sort of success in the concert business in London, wow, that'd be really cool to go and start over where nobody knows me. And I tried really hard, and I did a pretty good job. I left the Bowl a lot better off because of my efforts than it was before I got there. Makes me feel really proud. But in the end, it didn't work out, and it ended up closing at the end of 2016.
So you got to move back to your lovely home of New York.
Got to move back. I moved back, and oddly enough, I ended up in the same apartment building I was in when I had left, which is just a little 6-unit apartment building above an Italian bakery in Soho. And I just happened to call my landlord, and I was yo, I'm back. You got anything? He's yeah, you need another apartment? No problem. Somebody just moved out. Well, it's a very New York story. But yeah, I'm back here and loving it. And I came back with a fresh perspective. And London was tough, man. It was really tough. We were stuck with a challenging location, an amazing venue in a challenging location. So it wasn't like the Brooklyn Bowl here. It wasn't like people weren't fighting to play there. But what people don't realize and don't remember about the Brooklyn Bowl here is when it opened, people told Shapiro he was crazy. And the first 18 months was a real struggle for him to get shows. And he was leaning on me and Josh Moore and Jomo and the Barry Presents people and all sorts of promoters around New York and all of his friends. And it really took a Herculean effort and a group effort of Shapiro and all of his friends to get the Bowl going. And now I wouldn't say it books itself, but people really want to play there. Holds are always very deep, 6, 8, 9 months in advance. He can select what shows he wants as opposed to the other way around. So trying to go over there in London and do it there where people are bowling, why the fuck would I want to bowl? But yeah, it was a major challenge over there. And the music business works completely differently over there, where club bookers almost don't exist. They're just calendar holders. Clubs don't send offers to fucking agents over there.
The promoters are the guys.
The promoters are the guys. And the promoters were all oh yeah, I love it. We'll do some stuff together. And after 4 or 5 months of promoters telling me they'll do stuff, but never calling for holds, I was fuck it, I'm just going to start sending offers out. And I got bowling money and beer money and fried chicken money that I can put into these deals. Yeah. And I got pissed off a lot of promoters over there very quickly because they're what the fuck are you doing? This is my band.
In London, the promoters control the band to the point where the agents will follow the promoter who has histories, lead on where to play. In America, we can have a discussion about it, but it's management and the agents call on where the band plays and the artist normally. In America, that's how it works. And that's what you knew. And that's what I knew. When you go over to London, you start to learn that the promoter has way more power.
Way more, and I would say too much. Like, I'd say to some agents, well, why are you letting this guy decide where you're going to play? And not even for shows I'm trying to play or have, you know what I mean? But like, why don't you decide what's up? Oh, well, the promoter knows best. And British people can be very passive.
Luke being in the room adds great experience with that, because when we have disagreements on what the venue is the band wants to play, I get to fight the fight. But 9 times out of 10, he's the manager. He gets to make the call. Last year, I won one, and then the show sold out on the pre-sale, and I had to move it up because I was wrong. And he's giving me a look, which is his "I've told you so." Birmingham, Alabama, home free, kicked my ass. I was so fucking wrong.
And I think that's a good, healthy thing to have. You want disagreeing opinions in any sort of setting, right? Like, I want to hear from smart people about these things. And it feels like over in London, it's, you know, even dealing with Ollie to a certain extent, it's a totally different ball of wax over there. They treat business and the conversations much differently, and the power is centered a lot in those conversations with the promoters. So you going over to London, taking this kind of like, you know, this sounds like some sort of like revolutionary story where you go over there and kick the Brits' ass, you know? Like,
right.
Ooh, dude, that sounds like a great event. Kick the Brits' ass. We should do that. I don't know how to program it, but man, the Bronx have got to fucking headline it.
For sure. You know, when I moved over there, you talk about personality. I tried to dial down my personality and just be like, you know, Brits, they're kind of subdued, trying to be nice and just mean, oh, hi, I'm Jake. Yes, pleasure to meet you. I just moved over from New York. And I realized within a few months that wasn't getting me anywhere. So then I was like, what's up, motherfuckers? It's Jake Szufnarowski from New York City here. Let's do some fucking business. And then I just started sending offers out for a lot of money and getting a bunch of shows. It was like a bull in a china shop. The phone just started ringing and was like, hey, what do you think you're doing? Hey, that's my band. I remember I said to one promoter, I was like, hey, you know Polestar? You know how you can look up like who the agent is and who the manager is? He's like, yeah. I was like, does that exist for promoters? And he was like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. Is there anywhere, a database online where I can find out who the promoter of record is for a certain band? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, then I'm just going to fucking send offers out if there's no way for me to figure it out. He's like, look, I do a lot of...
knows.
He goes, I do... Right.
You know, the band knows.
He's like, I do a lot of hard rock and punk and metal shows. So if you're ever going to do something in that vein, why don't you just reach out to me and ask me if it's a band I work with before you make an offer? And I was like... You gotta be out of your fucking mind. I'll just send the offer, and if the agent wants to include you, if you guys are such good buddies and you have such a great track record, then you'll get that figured out. So I did a bunch of times. I would make the offer, book the show, and then the promoter would come to me, and then I'd partner with them on it, like at the end, to try to like, you know, maintain
and in
some
hope that
friendship.
they would start to bring you more business, right? Like, hey, it's a catalyst. I got you in. I'm going to show you how awesome it is. And hopefully you like start to bring more shit this way.
Right. And I did that, but then it didn't bring that other kind of stuff back. So needless to say, I'm happy to be back in New York booking my own shows.
You had built on that and had some success over the course of the 2 years. Like you'd grown that into a business.
Oh yeah, we had lots of great successes. It's just that if you have 2 or 3 great shows a week, that's great. But you know, you really need 5 or 6 or 7. You need to be open and busy every day.
Let's talk about for a second the fact that you can go into anybody else's room, that your personality is winning enough that competitors rent to you and have no problem with that, where you're in a market where not everybody goes into everybody else's room. That really is a special thing.
Yeah, and that just happened, I think, from being around a long time and treating people the right way. And when I started becoming a promoter, making people money, backing up my word, and putting bands in the right rooms that would sell the right amount of tickets. And everybody, if you're a venue owner, you want shows in your room. So if I'm going to bring you a show that's going to sell out, like the first one was the toughest one was getting into the Bowery Presents. And I started doing things at the Mercury Lounge. And I did it kind of without Jomo and Glancy knowing. And I agreed, like, we'll never put Rocks Off Presents on anything. I don't care about that. I put it on my own poster, sure, but I don't need other venues to put it on there. If they do, it's cool. But I don't like fight for that kind of stuff because no one is paying to see the promoter, you know? Jomo called me for lunch one day and he was like, hey, will you come have lunch with me and Michael Swear? And I was like, yeah, sure. I didn't know what it was going to be. I was, oh, maybe you're going to offer me a job. And they're like, we know you do shows at the Mercury Lounge. We know you've been doing them for a while and they've been selling out. So if you want to do stuff at the Bowery and the Music Hall, like, let's figure out a way to make this happen. And I was like, wow, awesome. And also, I think part of the reason that people are happy to pick up my calls is because I respect the value of a Friday and Saturday night, which I know a lot of other promoters don't, and that's all they want. And I've from the get-go been like, look, if I'm going to take your room on a Saturday, I'll take it on a Tuesday too, and I'll give you a show on a Tuesday because no one wants to book their Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. Everyone can book their own Friday, Saturdays. So I realized that there's a value in me coming in and helping out on the off nights. In an exchange, I get a good night. You know, it's like, it's got to be a total win-win for everybody.
Right.
And I have that problem a lot on my boats because I allow other promoters into our boats. I'll allow anybody in because I have the same philosophy. Like, let's do some shows together. And I have a lot of promoters who only want Fridays and Saturdays. And I try to tell them, I'm like, you got to help pick up the slack here because, yeah, the boat's just going to sit at the dock on most Mondays and Tuesdays. So you can't just cherry pick the good dates. Otherwise, like, what good are you?
Let's talk about the business of Rocks Off for just a second here. Do you own the boats?
I do not own the boats. That would be horrible. People have asked me a lot, like, why don't you buy your own boat? And it's like, well, I have 7 different boats I use with 3 different companies. We have exclusive arrangements for live music on all of them. And the maintenance and upkeep and insurance and Coast Guard regulations on a boat is a nightmare. And if I were to buy...
You want Jake fucking tuning up the engine on a boat you're going out on? Come on.
I bought a jet ski once and it sunk 3 days in the East River.
Which is why he doesn't own boats.
But we did have another situation. This is a pretty good story that a lot of people don't know about, but it was me and 2 other boat owners. We bought a houseboat for $8,000 from a marina in Long Island that a woman had been living on, and she passed away. And we bought this real cheap, and we had it towed to our marina. And there was a piece of the water, the way all the boats are configured, that was like dead water. You couldn't get a boat in and out, but the houseboat would fit on there. So we made a deal with the people who own the marina, and they charged us $400 a month to keep the houseboat there. And we renovated it. We just called a few of our friends who did construction and built a few private offices, and then had a bunch of desks and the rest of it. We had that office for 4 years, and it got banged.
That was your office?
Yeah, that was our office. So we worked on a boat, and that was interesting.
The cheapest lease in New York.
Yeah, by far. Those houseboats, they're not made for being on like water with a lot of ferry service, which bounces the boats around a lot. So after a while, it started to like get cracks in it and stuff from banging against the dock. So it started like lilting and taking on water, listing, and it was like kind of hanging to one side. And I was like, this is going to be coming to an end soon. But then Hurricane Sandy came, and the Coast Guard came by, and they were like inspecting all the boats and telling us what to prepare for and how to prepare for the hurricane. And they just looked at our boat and they were like, I'd take anything that you ever want to see again off this boat. And we were all like, okay. So we took our computers, our electronics, our contracts, everything we needed, just basically left the furniture there and came back a few days later. And the thing was just at the bottom of the marina.
That was nice that they gave you that heads up.
Yeah, very nice. We had to pay a tugboat and a barge to come and take that out and sent it to a scrapyard. But that was tons of fun working on a boat every day, like literally working on a boat every day.
Now, you're one of the more creative people in the industry, and I don't think that there's a room that you're going to be in where people aren't going to know you're there by the end of the day. But what advice could you give the young, up-and-coming agents, promoters, industry people that are trying to break through to make it in this biz?
Threats of physical violence work all the time. So carry around a baseball bat and swing it at Will.
Who the fuck is Will? Why do you hate him so much?
Advice I can give to anyone in any industry, not just music, is like, do what you say you're going to do. Do things that you didn't say you were going to do, and do favors for people, and reach out to people, and make people feel good, compliment people. Just be a good person, and people are going to want to work with you. Don't be a dick.
Why rock and roll? How did you get here?
Growing up, man, I was into hip hop and hair metal. First 2 records I bought were Run DMC's first album on cassette and the first Van Halen album on vinyl. And then I got really into hip hop. I started a hip hop recording studio in my parents' basement, and then I started putting on hip hop shows around Lowell, Massachusetts. That turned me into a promoter. I realized I was performing too, which didn't go so well. MC Jake. But I realized pretty quickly I was better at organizing the shows and putting them together. And then I loved punk rock too, so I started like putting together punk rock shows. Then I moved to New York and thought I wanted to be in the record business. So I ended up, my first gig was at a hip hop record label called Tough City Records, which did a lot of reissues. And I was writing liner notes for hip hop reissues, which is pretty funny because all these records that had come out in New York in the early 80s, I was writing the liner notes to for $25 a day. I was like, I'm going to do this until I can get a job at a record label. And then I ended up with a job at Wetlands, and it changed the course of what I thought I was going to be involved in. And it led me into the live business. And then Chris Zahn left Wetlands as the booker. Shapiro was like, hey, you want to do the booking? And I was like, well, and I'd started my own record label at that time in my spare time. And I was like, no, I got this record label. And then Zahn called me a few days before he was set to quit, told me about who was probably going to get the job, and was like, you want this guy booking the Wetlands? Where I had been working there for 5 years at that point, and I was there before Shapiro got there. I started working for the first owner, Larry Block. And I was like, yeah, that guy can't do it. Fuck, I guess it's got to be me. And then I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Zahn was supposed to train me for 2 weeks, and he came in Monday and then went through the Polestar directory and was like, this agency hates us. Don't ever call them. They like us. They'll book some of their bands with us. These guys love us. They'll book all their bands. And I just made mental note of it. He went out for lunch and just never came back. And I was just stuck. And I was like, I didn't know how to make offers. Like, I remember I made this one offer to William Morris, and Zahn just told me like the expenses are $3,000. So like, I think I offered $5,000 plus 85% after $8,000. And agent called me and was like, hey, what's up with those $3,000? I need your expense sheet. And I was like, what's an expense sheet? And he's like, with an attitude, he's like, you tell me what your rent is and how much you're paying for sound and loaders and all that. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can put that together. Will you send me yours? And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, you want $5,000, right? So like, how much is your tour bus? How much is your tour manager? And he was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I was like, well, what are you talking about? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Tell me how much your shit costs. I'll tell you how much my shit costs.
So you mind if you show me yours?
He was like, that's not the way it works. And I was like, well, yes, it is. So no, I won't send this to you then. And he was like, then you'll never get the show. And we ended up getting the show. And I've never sent an expense sheet since. I just thought, fuck you. You know, like my expenses are how much my expenses are. You come examine my fucking boat and tell me how much the captain gets paid to drive it. Put a stick down in our fuel meter and tell me how many gallons we used. I didn't get in this business to be a fucking accountant. You know what I mean? I hear you talking all the time about staying up late, settling shows and putting your fucking expense reports together. That sounds like a nightmare to me.
I want to give you a chance to talk about something that was very cool that you did during some of your time in London, which is running for Rodney.
Oh, yes. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
I actually just figured out that I did that.
You ran 3 miles a day for a year at least.
Every day.
Right?
Every year. 366 days. It was a leap year.
Wow.
So it's a feat that can't even be matched for another 4 years. But yeah, I was doing a lot of running and I ran a couple marathons. And then I heard about this thing called 3 for 31, where you're supposed to run 3 miles every day in January to like start off the new year in a good way. And I was like, cool, I can do that. So during that time, my best friend of 20 years passed away. And I decided I was going to run 3 miles every day for 53 days because he was 53 years old to kind of like honor his memory. But I really thought to myself, I was like, I'm going to do 100 days. And I called an ultra marathoner friend of mine and he's like, you're insane, Jake. You'll never, like 100 days. That's ridiculous. And I was like, you know what, Mishka? I'll just tell you now that I'm going to go all year. Like, you tell me I can't do something and like watch me do it. And I did. And then I made all these videos that I put on runningforrodney.com. And we've been raising a lot of money for a scholarship in his name at Berklee College of Music, which is hilarious because Rodney wasn't much of a musician, could barely play his guitar. But we had a band called the Rodney Speed Experience that we put together. And he was the front man of it. So he could live his rock and roll dreams out. Rodney was a really special character. We could spend all day. I couldn't even explain him. So if you're interested, check out runningforrodney.com and you'll see videos of him and stuff. But yeah, so I ran every day and I made all these videos. Running every day was insane. I do a lot of traveling too. I mean, I ran in multiple blizzards. I ran in Switzerland at 8,000 feet for a week on a frozen lake bed because it was the only flat area I could find to run around. Like I stopped on December 31st. That was my last day and it was hard to stop running, but I did. And then I just kind of forgot about it, forgot that I had done it because I was like so excited to not have to run anymore every day.
You altered your life around this is going to be hell if I have another drink tonight. I'm going to go to bed.
I did big time, yeah. And I had to run through
Which is weird to hear from you, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I had to run through some hangovers, man. It was fucking brutal. Running isn't the most fun thing to do anyway.
Period.
I had come off running 2 marathons back to back, like 4 weeks apart, one in New York and one in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And the Chiang Mai one was like December 22nd. And then I did the 3 for 31 that January because I was like, if I don't keep running, like if I don't give myself some kind of goal, I'll just get all out of shape and everything. It led to just running every day. And I had been used to running really longer distances and 3 miles was just a warm up. And it wasn't until I get into like 4, 5, 6 miles that I was like, yeah, I hit my stride and I would run 10 miles, like no problem. But the 3 miles was really tough because it was like, oh, just as I'm starting to get going, I gotta stop. So I did the whole year. And it was just last week, I pulled up one of the Running for Rodney videos and I watched one because I wanted to send it to someone. And then I was like, oh, YouTube was like, how about this one? And then I went back and I watched every one and it was super emotional because I realized like, A, I did this for Rodney, and B, I did it. It was like I had forgotten about it. I didn't have any perspective on it. When you first stop, you're like, yeah, I did that. Okay, cool. That's over with. What's next in
now
life?
You've had some time to reflect. It's been, 7, 8 months now, so you've had a minute.
Yeah, it was heavy. It was like, I didn't think of it as much of an accomplishment as much of, it was almost like a chore towards the end. Like, I got to do this.
Right.
And now to look back on it, it was like, I fucking did that. Like, wow, I did that.
Yeah, those videos are great. And it's clearly one of those things where the industry got to share with you and you could see there'd always be like 500 or 800 likes behind them. Like everybody was watching those things. It's like, oh, cool. This is going to be a great 3 to 5 minute video that's going to be fun to watch right now.
Running past all these monuments wearing like runners' American flag shorts.
Oh, yeah. I found American flag shorts when I was in San Francisco for Polestar. And then I found these like American flag socks that went up to my knees. And then I got this shirt that said America back-to-back World War champs that I loved running around London in. And I got a lot of funny looks.
I don't know if there's a better place to stop than tribute to Rodney. So thank you so much for coming, dude.
All right. Thanks for having me. Now let's go out and party.
Jake is just one of the coolest people on the planet. You have to love him. And if you don't, well, fuck you.
Lucas Keller with Milk and Honey, and I'm on Promoter 101.
Hey, if you want to reach out to us, send us an email to Steiny at promoter101.net.
And if you are fixing for more of these interviews, we've got 9 left. This is the end of day 3 of the 12 Days of Christmas, our abridged versions of Promoter 101. Join us tomorrow for day 4 of the 12 Days of Christmas on Promoter 101.
You know, Luke, I just can't wait to find out who's on tomorrow. What a great way to avoid our families during this holiday season.
It's a nice excuse for both of us to get away.
Until then, we're wishing you sold-out shows. Cheers.
Hey, boo-boo buddy, let's get some picnic baskets and listen to Promoter 101.
Let's have some fun!
Ooh. Ba-da-ba-ba.